Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you me trying to keep it together. I'm I'm going to try to keep this quick. I'm not going to necessarily compare the two tabs that I know you can see, like one for one. The second one just helps me illustrate my point of the first one. Vanguard Onslaught is okay. I like Vanguard Onslaught. But I do want to dedicate a video to what I mean by its very flavor of the month, inconsistent, and doesn't really do anything. Right? At its core, Vanguard Onslaught helps your Vanguard Invader units. But overall, everybody gets fallback in charge, which is nice if we were a significant melee army, right? We don't have a lot of threatening melee units. And Vanguard Invaders get advance and charge on top of that. And again, the same argument. If we were significantly good in that regards, this would be a very good detachment. And that's not to say that this isn't a good detachment. Again, say it with me now. This is okay. Alright? Alright. The second detachment rule being Death Leaper can now be your warlord is kind of weird, but I like the flavor of it. So, no notes there. But now we're seeing detachments get like 3 rules, and it feels like I hope they come back to touch up some of the first codexes in that regard, even if they're still okay. Now, Vanguard Onslaught, why I say it doesn't have staying power is because you're not doing anything. I know that's hard to tackle, but you're doing a whole lot of nada, right? Let's look at the Vanguard Invader units that now get access to Advance and Charge, okay? You have the Rulor with the Gene Stealers. Bam, alright, got one. Death Leaper, probably never advancing and charging. Parasite of Mortrix, probably never advancing and charging. Winged Hive Tyrant, good, probably not advancing and charging. Winged Tyranid Prime, everybody, of course, attaches to the melee warriors, and people are catching on to what I've said all edition. That unit isn't that good for that. And it doesn't move enough. And it's drops like nothing, right? So, but hell, I'll give you a second unit for that, okay? So far we have Broodlord Gene Stealers as a lock-in, and Winged Tyranid Prime, and Melee Warriors as a lock-in, okay? Gargoyles, not advancing and charging. Tyrannocyte, not advancing and charging. Harpy, no. Hivecrone, no. Lictor, probably not. Moloch, possibly. But also probably not. Neurolictor, no. Raveners, hey. Third unit. But also they deep strike, so again, probably not. Uh, Trigon, probably not. And Von Ryan's Leapers, maybe. I'll give 2.5 because they also infiltrate. So like, uh, eh, right? But you know what? Fuck it. We'll put 3. So out of that, the units that get buffed with this advance in charge, only 3 of them actually kind of do that, right? Now you could say that I'm being very narrow in this, and I'm applying standards that shouldn't be. You could, and I'd like to hear the counter argument respectfully. But to that end, your Vanguard invaders don't really benefit from this detachment, like you would think, off of the detachment rule alone. Now it does open you up to putting enhancements such as battle shock test on a 2-up once a unit comes in from reserves. Okay. Stealth and benefit of cover for the rest of the unit. Stealth for the bearer, benefit of cover for everybody. Stalker, +1 to hit, +1 to wound against one specific target. Neuronode, redeploy. And for the stratagems, you have surprise assault, point somewhere, battle shock test. If they pass, +1 to hit. If they fail, +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Hypersensory Cilia, reactive move for 2 command points, but 2 units. Assassin Beast, excuse me. Precision. Uh, yeah, that. Who gives a fuck about precision like that? Really? It comes in handy sometimes, but it takes up a slot. Really, it takes up a slot. Unseen Lurkers, lone up 18. Can't fault that. That's good. Heated Brood, probably the best stratagem here. Yeah, I'll say it is. Bring something in from reserves a turn earlier, or two if they're both Vanguard and Vader. And Invisible Hunter, uppy downy. Okay, so with all of that, but what do? You move. Maybe one unit is a little bit easier to hit. You move. You never use this, realistically. Um, you try not to get hit. You move, and you move. So that's what I mean, right? It is a movement detachment, but also still not truly there, right? Because you're not getting a boost to your movement characteristic on like the data sheets. You're just moving a lot more. And you have to do more things than just move in the game of 40k. Now, movement does win games, but that's to entail things after that. And there is no after that for Vanguard Onslaught for the most part. Now, the next part that I'm going to say is probably our fault as the players. Because they have put something in that gives all Tyranid units a benefit for being in this detachment. Everybody gets fall back in charge. So, everybody can get within engagement, fall back, Exocrine shoot, Harridan shoot, Think Tank shoots, Neurotyrant and Zoanthropes shoots, and then charge. But who's charging? Do you play a detachment to have 3 squads of Broodlord Gene Stealers advance and charge? Because who cares if they have precision? And mind you, if you were playing Invasion Fleet, you could just pick that too. Uh, +1 to hit and wound for the Gene Stealers. They hit on 2s and they're devastating wounds, so who cares? But it does activate um, things like Neurolictors around, right? So there's that. A little bit easier. Reactive move the Gene Stealers, 2 CP, sure. Lone Op 18 them. Possibly, but they already scouted, so I don't know how much room we're really working with on that one. Bring them in from reserves? Well, they're not in reserves, they scouted. Invisible Hunter. Uppy Downy? Nope, didn't do that, because once again, they scouted. They scouted and advanced in charge. To go over to Von Ryan's Leapers, same argument applies. And again, the same argument applies for the Wing Tyranid Prime and the Melee Wars, except Surprise Assault becomes a little bit better in that regard. Minus the scouting, or I should say the arguments I said for Von Ryan's Leapers, replace Scout and put Infiltrate. So, same spiel, pretty much. But in the case of the Melee Warriors, they don't have the movement to make up Unseen Lurkers. And Assassin Beast, again, I could just play Invasion Fleet. So, it's an okay detachment. It's still okay, right? Again, this isn't to shit on it, but this is to say it doesn't necessarily win, right? It doesn't have a winning strategy and a winning tactic. It doesn't automatically win versus another army, another detachment. It doesn't do that. The data sheets within it does, but it doesn't. What do I mean? Well, ask yourself if you ever have gone, man, my army loses hard in the Vanguard Onslaught. Or you've ever thought, man, Vanguard Onslaught really wins really hard there. Did Vanguard Onslaught win? Or did bringing fucking 30 Gene Stealers win? Which again, you could bring in most other detachments. You could just put them in Synaptic Nexus, attach Dirge Heart of Karas to them, or Psychostatic Disruption, and now you have a buffing piece. Doesn't get advanced in charge, but it already scouted. It has okay enough movement. Give it +1 to advance, /charge. And, you know, get around the same results and still have access to, like, other things. Somebody fails a battle shock test after you've death wounded them to hell and back with Gene Stealers. You get to see if they take more mortals and then possibly lose the unit. Now, mind you, you don't benefit from +1 to hit or the 5 up invulnerable because you already have that. But get access to other things. What do you get access to truly in here besides advance and charge? Precision? Who cares about precision? So, it's a bit interesting where I see Vanguard Onslaught get touted as higher up than it should be. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a solid B to C tier detachment. I think it is very middle of the road. Now, are there funky things you can do with it? Absolutely. I've released several videos talking about some, hey, because it's Vanguard Invader, or because it's infantry, here's the funny thing you can do. And that's the thing that I try to repeat in videos that, hey, keep in mind, I'm not talking about this from a you're going to win your game standpoint. I'm talking about you're going to make your friend want to slap you by the end of the night, but he's going to laugh when he realizes he can't punch you in any way. Well, depending on your friend. So like that's the type of aspect for those things, right? Um to that extent too, the Vanguard invaders themselves don't do a lot, right? Like one is a buffing, two of them are buffing pieces, Death Leaper and Neurolictor. We got some screening pieces with Lictor and Von Rein's Leapers. We got some point scorers with Raveners and hey, a little bit of damage out of them. But like you're talking about your utility pieces, which is why bum 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 segue. It works for Final Day. It works for Final Day because your utility pieces get bonus utility. They get to turn on the opposite faction or allied faction. Yeah, your allied faction by giving them things like +1 to hit. You lose a Tyranid character. Now everything is +1 to hit and +1 to, well, the Gene Stealers are +1 to hit and +1 to wound versus the thing that killed that Tyranid's character. Remember, well, depending where you're coming from, I talked about how if you've never seen 3 of a data sheet before in the entire edition, that's probably a bad sign. Like, that's probably a sign that the data sheet isn't good if it's not an epic hero and you've never seen anybody take 3 of them. So, like, extend that to at least now I have a reason to even think about that for the Parasite of Mortrex, right? I can do that over here. I could take 3 Winged Hive Tyrants. I'm not going to spend 600 points on that shit, but I could do it. The Neurolictor is not a character. I'm sorry, no matter how many times people want to make it, not a character. I'll even double check for y'all right there. It's not a character. Okay. Put Death Leaper over here. Get something out of that. Wing Tyranid Primes. Get something out of that. People really sleep on these stratagems that If you lose a unit, just pop the strat. I don't understand that. Maybe that's another deeper discussion that needs to be done. I really don't understand that. Like, I know you shouldn't make it plan A, but I don't think you need to wait until plan B, if I'm being quite frank. You're going to lose units in the game of 40k. Use the fucking stratagems instead of sitting here, oh, but what if I need to command reroll? What if you are +1 to hit and +1 to wound against that target for the rest of the game? Then guess what? If you're hitting on 2s and wounding on 3s now, you won't need the reroll as bad. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's another thing that's driving me away from the point of these are utility pieces. And honestly, Vanguard Onslaught might be a little bit more utility focused than Assimilation Swarm. Oh, hot take. Oh, it's so hot. It's so spicy. It hurts. Oh, my hand. Um, Genuinely though, you're asking for a majority of utility pieces to advance and charge and do what? Because they don't have the melee to do much there. Brewlord Gene Stealers are, for most intensive purposes, okay, let's reel that back. For a lot of the game, they're relying on the Death Wounds part. Now, in certain matchups, they're not. But at the same time, I then ask to you the same question I ask whenever, somebody tries to tell me about melee warriors. Did it cost that many points? Did it need to cost that many points? Don't get me wrong. I like Brood Lord Gene Stealers. If I could, there would be more lists where I take them versus a Walkrent. Actually, that's a lie. I just lied to you. I like the Walkrent. I'm sorry. I do. I guess I'm neutral still, but uh, for what it is, if there's a world where the Hive Tyrant ability is applied to Synapse like I want it to be, or something like that, then yeah, maybe I'll drop the Walkrents. But for 230 points, that's Walkrent points, and Walkrent points is high, right? It's fucking high. So one squad of this is high. That's a lot. That's 11 models. But it took 11 models to kill somebody else's 5 to 6. That's when it gets kind of fucky. That's when you go, damn. Because Gene Stealers, Tyranid in general, well, not all Tyranids, right? The monsters might survive a second turn. We're not talking about Oath. Okay, that shit's stupid, but hey. Um, the other things, all of this shit on this list, not going to see the next combat. Except for, again, maybe 1 or 2. 3. The infantry, you're not going to the next combat. You're going to a target, you're taking them out, and you're moving on. And for that, you don't need this detachment solely to do that. I love the flavor of Vanguard Onslaught. I'm not asking for this detachment to not be here. I like Vanguard Onslaught. But what I'm saying is, I don't think you should get your hopes up on its capabilities. It is pretty cut and dry what the fuck this does. You are going to throw 30 Gene Stealers at your opponent and make up the rest as you fucking go. But at that point, if you did want to win more games, couldn't you just throw 30 Gene Stealers at your opponent in any detachment? Except for Crusher Stampede. Right? Right? Like, could you not? Yeah, but they don't get the advance in charge. Hell, even in Warrior Bioform Onslaught, one of them can get advance in charge. One of those units can get advance in charge. All right, okay, and this is the other thing with melee armies, okay, or with melee intent. Something has to happen after you advance and charge. Blood Angels, you take a Liberator Assault Group, they get strength or some shit after they charge. Hell, we're looking at Emperor's Children. Apparently, the entire army advances and charges or some shit like that. That's insane. The entire army, not just one detachment for 4 datasheets. Yeah, right? Like, come on now. Fuck. Something has to happen after you charge. You need to get a bonus. You need to get lance. Something. So, if they changed it so that Vanguard Invader units also get lance, now we're talking. Now we're talking. +1 to wound for charging? Now we're talking. But that's not fair. Other people get that. We don't get that. Because fuck us, I guess, right? You look at Stormlands. Actually, let's look at Stormlands. Pivot, unscripted. Oh, he's off the rails. He's insane. Let's look at Stormlands, right? Your entire army is eligible to advance, fall back, and charge. The entire fucking army. That means the mounted, that means the infantry, that means the vehicles, that means Gilliman, that means the Lion. You get some access to reroll charges. You get Lance over here. Right? And not just to go, wow, the Space Marines get it. I should too. But genuinely, look at what I'm talking about with other detachments. So we have our utility pieces being better in Final Day. And we don't get the same output for advancing and charging as shit like Stormlance, Liberator Assault Group. Where are you fuckers at? Well, there we go. You don't get +2 strength and +1 attacks. You don't get that. We don't have AP on our shit. Well, yeah, we don't have a lot of AP except for again the Brewlord Gene Stealers and Warriors, and even then, you're looking at damage 1. So like you're not looking at damage 2 and 3 on the fucking melee weapons for the infantry that can now advance and charge. You're not looking at shit like that. What's another? Black Templars? Where we at? Righteous Crusaders. Da, da, da. Or it doesn't even have to be on the charge. It could just be in melee, right? We're not looking at melee weapons get lethals or sustained. You're not looking at that because we already had access to that for all weapons and invasion fleet. So unfortunately, I find myself once again bitching about, damn, they really handled invasion fleet kind of poorly, right? In the sense that yeah, it's supposed to cover everything. You're supposed to be able to do any unit in your generic index detachment. Hard agree. But with that, the data sheets and the other detachments do suffer after that. Because nothing was on the follow up. I can't give them sustained after melee or for melee because we did that invasion fleet. You could at least give them lance over here. I really don't know what was stopping that. +1 AP, +1 attacks. And this is the other thing. You know that Synapse was bad and that our melee was bad, so you had to slap on +1 strength in melee. But then you see that it still hasn't made Vanguard Onslaught overpowered because there's no fucking melee there. In this current edition. Alright, there's no funky rule that lets everybody fight and something fucking dies. But again, I don't want this video to go on too far for the I don't like Vanguard Onslaught. No, I think it is fine. Some nice flavor. good to play 1 or 2 games in, but I just don't have the consistent GT topper faith that other people do. Now, has it won GTs? Yes. Not saying that it can't win a GT. Everything can, everything possibly will. I'm just saying, expecting this to be the gauntlet, or this is more so coming off of the back of the discussion of it being a team's pick, what we saw at Pyra Cup. I don't understand that because it's not like you ever look at Vanguard Onslaught and go, this is a good pairing for me. There isn't an army and a detachment that you look and go, damn, I really want to advance and charge my fucking. Besides Brewlord Gene Stealers, you could do that everywhere. But, like, again, that's the second unit problem. What's your second unit? You don't look and go, damn, I really want to throw 18 Von Ryan's Leapers at my opponent. I just don't think they can handle it. Damn, I really want to throw fucking 21 warrior bioforms at my opponent. How are they going to get through it? Because they're going to get through it. Somebody's going to get through it. Now, mind you, skilled players, you will see they'll still take it 5-0. They'll still have winning results after everybody. But it doesn't innately help you do that on its own. And I don't know why you would necessarily do that to yourself when you have other detachments that, yeah, if you look at it and you go, I don't know how the fuck my opponent's going to deal with 3 Maliceptors, 3 Tyrannifexes, 3 Norns. How the fuck do you deal with that in Crush Stampede? I don't know how you're going to do it. Yeah, that's something. If you look at Assimilation Swarm and go, I'm going to keep regenerating bodies every fucking where because now we have about 15, 11 harvesters that all can activate on a fucking unit somewhere. Now, mind you, each unit can only be healed once per turn. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that each unit that can be healed by a harvester. Okay? You look at that. No, some armies can't handle that shit. You throw 60 Hormigons at their face, 3 Ripper Swarms, and say, have fun. And guess what? It costs you damn near nothing. Right? 3 Ripper Swarms are what? 120? They're 40 points each, right? Right now, Rippers. The fuck am I smoking? I'm talking about 2 models. 25 points. Where the fuck was I thinking about 40? I think had Pyrivores in my head for some reason. 25 points per model, 75 points, 60 Hormigons. We're looking at another 360 points, 390. I can't fucking math right now. 390 points. Tell your opponent have fun. If I touch you with my advancing and charging Hormigons in Assimilation Swarm, have fun. I'm going to sit them next to a Psychophage. All 60 of these motherfuckers are going to have 6 up, feel no pain. And then I'm going to revive them. Each of them. If you don't get rid of it. Hell, that's only stopping at 60. What's saying you don't throw 120 fucking Hormigons at your opponent's face? And then fucking 75 points of Rippers. And maybe another 120 for Pyrivores? Then say, have fun. I don't know. So, it's just odd that there's a random burst of faith in Vanguard Onslaught. That, again, I like Vanguard Onslaught. This isn't to dissuade anybody from playing Vanguard Onslaught. Usually. I tell people to stop taking stupid shit in Vanguard Onslaught, but Vanguard Onslaught, if this is the detachment you like, the flavor, and the thing you want to do, please go do that. Don't let this video stop you. But, at the core of it, you're kind of just moving 30 Gene Stealers. And that's what I'm talking about today. So, Vanguard Onslaught is okay. But I don't think you should have so much faith in it all the time. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.